Okay, so there are a ton of YouTube channels, a ton of paid courses, software, extensions, tools, memberships, and all sorts of resources when it comes to enhancing your KDP business. It's an ocean out there, and it's hard to know who's legit, what's worth your time, what's worth your money, and what isn't. So as soon as you enter the realms of make money online, the waters can get a little bit muddy sometimes. So in today's video, I'm going to kind of do a ultimate KDP resources guide where I'm going to talk about everything that has helped me build my KDP business and the tools that I'm using, the extensions, the subscriptions and software, which channels I've watched, which courses I've taken, etc, etc. And instead of this just being a case of listing things off, I'm going to explain the uses I have for each as well. So if you see me recommend a tool or some software before and it's not in this list or in the description below, it doesn't mean that I think it's bad. It just means that I'm not using it going forward at the moment. So the reality is you literally don't need anything to publish, really. You can pretty much do everything from scratch, but there's absolutely no doubt that certain resources can increase the speed you see success through KDP or to create certain types of books. So everything mentioned in this video and everyone mentioned in this video is going to be in the description below. So I'll do this video in a few sections. So the free resources that I use, paid resources, the courses that I've taken, the channels that I watch, where you can outsource your work from, and then a bonus section at the end regarding working environment. So let's get into this. The first two free resources that I recommend that you use, and the reason that I'm pairing these two together is because these are primarily the main reasons that I use both of these. So that's going to be canva.com, which you've obviously heard of, and bookow.com, which you might not have heard of. So what Bookow allows you to do is to generate the template for your book cover. So it's going to send you a PDF with all the dimensions that you need to fit your book covers spread into. So once Bookow has emailed you the template for your cover, what you can come and do is take that over to Canva, as you can see that I've done here, and start placing your book, your front cover and your back cover onto that template so that it is ready to be uploaded onto Amazon. Now this saves you a ton of time because you're not going to have to work out the different dimensions for your book, etc, etc. And of course with Canva you do have the ability to create the entirety of your book inside of Canva. It's not something that I do, and it's not something that I recommend that you do if you're trying to get into those really competitive niches like I recommend. So for me, that's a case of I can't create something good in Canva, so I have to hire someone to do it for me. However, some people are very good at creating book covers in Canva, and if you think that you've got that kind of eye for design, then that could definitely work for you. Although it might be a better idea to get the upgraded version of Canva so you can use more more elements and things like that. But using the free version of Canva, if you're new to KDP, then this could be a great way to get started if you are just looking to create some low content books, your expectations are quite low, and you just kind of want to get your feet wet with KDP. Then you can create the entirety of your book covers in Canva if you want to. But when it comes to using different elements from Canva to include on your book cover that you're going to be ultimately selling, you need to make sure that you understand the content licenses when it comes to commercial purposes. So what I'll do is I'll leave a link. This is from Canva themselves explaining what you can and cannot do with their images and elements. Okay, so the next free resource that I highly recommend that you add to your browser is an extension called DS Amazon Quick View. So what DS Amazon Quick View allows you to do is to see the BSRs for the books that you're looking into without actually having to go into the individual listings. Okay, so what you can do when you're doing your niche research, because obviously when you're doing that you need to get an estimation as to how much buyer traffic is going to the niche that you're interested in. So instead of having to go into the individual listings, what you can do is really quickly see the BSRs across the front page and see how low they are and see if it's worth your time, see if the niche has got traffic going to it. So it might sound a little bit of a novelty, but honestly I think this tool has probably saved me hundreds and hundreds of hours when it comes to doing niche research. So if you don't have a tool, you don't have this tool, or you don't have a tool like it, I highly recommend that you check that out. Okay, so the next tool that I highly recommend is Helium 10's BSR extension. So I'm going to leave a link to this because I don't actually know what it's called. I think it might be called X-Ray, but basically what it does, it allows you to see the historic BSR data for whatever book listing that you're on. So if you want to do a little bit more deeper research into an individual book, what you can do is activate that extension. That's going to bring up this chart here, and that's going to show the historic BSR for however long the book has been on Amazon. So you can do it by all time, you can do it by the last year, you can do it by 90 days, 30 days, last 7 days, last 24 hours. Don't know why you'd want to do that. I typically look at the last year to see how a book has been selling, and this is a really fantastic tool when it comes to doing seasonal niche research. So for example, what you can see here on one of my books is that this one here started selling really well up until sort of around Q4, and then the BSRs kind of started to suck just a little bit up and down all over the place during that period. And then again now in January, I guess, you know, as these type of books become more popular, obviously, then the BSRs start getting better. So when you use a tool like this, it's actually going to help you understand when a book is selling best, and that actually might help you when it comes to launching your book. Because if you were doing your niche research for a book like this and you saw that it was ranked 1 million on December the 30th or whenever it was, you might not think it's worth your time. But when you load up the BSR extension and you can see actually over its lifetime, this book is making quite a lot of sales. So in the long term, it's going to be a niche that's actually worthwhile for you. Okay, so continuing the theme of extensions for your browser, the next one that I'd recommend is AMZ Suggestion Expander. Now, there are plenty of other tools like this out there. This just happens to be the first one that I found and started using, and just haven't bothered to look at any others. So what AMZ Suggestion Expander does, and other similar tools, is when it comes to typing in your keywords into the search bar on Amazon, it's going to give you other suggestions before and after that keyword as well. So typically what Amazon would bring back is just this left hand white column here, but when it comes to using the different when it comes to using the extensions like this, you're going to get some suggestions before those keywords and some suggestions after those keywords as well. So when it comes to creating things like low content books, or just trying to niche down ever so slightly, or even to get some ideas for your ad campaigns, this tool can be absolutely fantastic because it is literally things that people are searching for on Amazon. So moving on to my next favorite free tool, and apparently everyone else's favorite free tool at the moment, is ChatGPT. So I think there is still a free version. I'm pretty sure I'm still in the free version because I know they've released a paid version now. But with ChatGPT, you can actually do some really incredible things. However, you do need to be sensible with ChatGPT. Don't get caught thinking that you're going to make millions from getting ChatGPT to make you kids books and long books and all sorts of novels and stuff like that. So the way that I've been using ChatGPT is to, one, entertain myself when I'm bored because it is pretty hilarious. But mainly what I use it for is to help me write the descriptions for my books. Now, every time I type and get something back from ChatGPT, I do alter it to make sure that it is completely unique, because I'm not convinced 100% that what you get back is 100% unique. But you can do all kinds of things, and like I say, just to give an example here, so I'm going to say, write me an Amazon description for a 50-page swear word coloring book, include bullet points, and then it's going to come back with an error, obviously. So let's try that again and see if ChatGPT wants to play now. Okay, it's giving me 50 shades of swear words. So I've gone and asked it to write me a description for a 50-page swear word coloring book for adults and include bullet points in that. And it's kind of doing that. So typically what I do once it's finished doing that is copy it, paste it over into a notepad or Word, or somewhere where I can just start editing it to make it more unique. And you need to be careful when it comes to using something like ChatGPT, because just doing this example, even 50 shades of swear words, I'm pretty sure there's another book that has a title that's very, very similar to that. So every time you use ChatGPT, you need to be very, very careful. And the other way that I do like to use it, and I think this is where it's most helpful for me anyway, is to get some ideas when it comes to doing my niche research. So if I'm thinking about creating a magical fairy coloring book for adults, I can ask ChatGPT to give me some suggestions as to what to include in that type of book. So I can't remember what I said, but what type of images should I have inside a magical fairy coloring book? Then let ChatGPT do its thing. So yeah, as you can see, it's coming back here with some suggestions that we go with fairies with delicate wings, magical forests, meadows and gardens filled with flowers, and whimsical creatures, cottages, castles, etc, etc. Now, from doing my own research, and this is why I love using ChatGPT for this, you know, there are quite a lot of books that have these type of themes in them. So I would definitely use this when it comes to doing a niche research and not so much content creation. Although saying that, if you are creating things like word searches, I don't see anything wrong with asking ChatGPT to give you 50 words for a Christmas word search, because these are just individual words. I don't see anything wrong with using them for such projects. Okay, moving on, because I don't want to make this a ChatGPT video, even though there are lots of possibilities with it. There's other videos out there that will probably explain that much better than me. But the next free resource that I recommend is AmazonAsyn.com. So when it comes to AmazonAsyn.com, you can come over and you can type in the asyn of a competitor's book. And what that's going to do, if you come down and ignore all those things, is to give you some ideas as to what type of keywords you can target. So I would typically use this when it comes to creating the title for my book. Now, with any software like this, you have to bear in mind that these are estimations of search volume, okay? So you should always be starting and finishing your niche research on Amazon itself to determine the competition, etc., etc. But if you need some help getting suggestions for keywords for your title and subtitle, then AmazonAsyn.com is a good one to go for. Now, if you sign up for AmazonAsyn, it's going to take you to another, where is it? It's going to lead you to another website here, which is sellerapp.com. So I think these type of tools are geared toward FBA, so selling physical products, but you can still use them for KDP to get some ideas. So when you sign up for the AmazonAsyn, you get like 10 free searches every day, maybe. I don't know how often it is, but it's kind of a bit like Helium 10, where you can do that sort of reverse asyn to check what sort of keywords your competitors might be using in their books, etc., etc. So again, you really don't need anything like this when it comes to being successful with KDP. But if you want that peace of mind, if you had a keyword in mind and you see it in here and it might have, I had the addition and subtraction workbook as the title for my book, which is going to be, I want to use the strongest keyword that I can for that. And this is telling me it's got searches going to it. Again, it's just an estimation. That gives me that peace of mind when it comes to actually creating the book. And just before we move on here, I can see this says 7 of 10 searches remaining. Now, I've been using this for a little while, and it appears that you get 10 free searches before having to actually sign up to something paid. So as you can see, I hardly actually use this at all. So it might be worth using if you're feeling like really lost in terms of what keywords to target. But other than that, you can go ahead and use the Amazon-Asyn.com one pretty much every day, just to give you some ideas when you're doing your niche research. So moving on to the next free resource is going to be PIXLR.com, which I have preloaded here, as you can see. So I'm not someone that is any good whatsoever at graphic design. However, there have been scenarios where I've wanted to color in some of the interior pages so I can use them for the front cover or on the back cover for my book or in the mock-ups for my book. So I use PIXLR.com to do that. As you can see, I'm just working on one at the moment as an example. So what you can do is use the fill option, choose the color that you want, for example, and then just go from there. Actually, that doesn't look particularly good, but you can go from there and start coloring in your interior. So with some of my books, when it comes to the coloring pages, the coloring books, what I like to do is kind of have sort of half of it colored in and use that as the book cover. It's quite effective, looks really good when people are actually scrolling through Amazon. It's really eye-catching, and you can do that quite easily using PIXLR.com. Okay, so that's the free section. Now moving on to paid resources. Now this is something that you need to be careful with, because it's very tempting to think that the next best software is just waiting around the corner for you, and you need to have the best research software that you can and every single tool going for you, when the reality is that you don't. So I've been in this situation before where I have been using tools to help me with niche research and keyword research and things like that, paid software. And whilst a lot of it is very, very good, some of it I think promotes laziness, and that's why I'm not recommending a lot of them in this video. So obviously some of them are going to be down to you and your preference if they help you. But for me, the paid tools that help me the most and have really enhanced my publishing business are the ones that help me to create content that I just can't create myself, and that I know would take a decade or thousands of dollars to outsource to someone to do for me. So the main ones that I use, and I've spoken about these on my channel before, I've promoted these before on my channel because I believe in them so strongly, are Instant Puzzle Generator, which creates word searches for you. We have this is Instant Maze Generator, which obviously generates these random mazes for you to use for your activity books. And then we have hand-drawn mazes, which allows you to, which has a variety of different hand-drawn style mazes, again, that you can use for your activity books. And my favorite one that these guys have created, all from the same company, is their math worksheet generator. So that's the one that I've used in my addition and subtraction workbook, because with this type of software, obviously you cannot really create this yourself unless you put a ton of time into it, and it's going to cost you a lot of money to outsource to someone else to do it. So that's my favorite in terms of possibilities. I'm going to link these all in the description below. I've got bonuses that I give away with certain ones that you purchase through me. So the next paid tool that I use kind of from time to time is CreativeFabrica. Now, I don't use it the way that most people do with the KDP interior section, wherever that is. I pretty much only use it for the variety of fonts and the mockups. I think you can still get the first month for $1 or something, and then it's like $20 or $22. I can't remember how much it is. But you know, this is one of those ones where I'm hesitant to recommend it because I do use it, but at the same time, I use it for a very specific thing, and that is pretty much just the different fonts. But you know, they've got their own different AI section now. It's the Spark stuff, which is I've not really looked at, but it could be worth a look if you're into that type of thing. But again, when it comes to, it's the same sort of scenario as Canva. I would just be very, very careful when it comes to what you're using these services for, when it comes to actually taking stuff that you're going to be using on the front cover or for the interior of your book that is going on to Amazon. Okay, so just to give an example here, so what I would do is to upload a font that I've taken from CreativeFabrica into Canva, and then select that. I can't actually, I think maybe, yeah, you can see I've uploaded a few fonts here that I've taken from CreativeFabrica, and then start actually doing the titles and the subtitle and the author name or whatever for the book myself, because I am a firm believer that these things actually matter quite a lot when it comes to the aesthetic of your book cover, like the type of font that you use, the placement of your font and things like that, because you're selling this basically as a thumbnail to people. Okay, you got to get someone's attention straight away. And I think when it comes to hiring someone, sometimes they don't have that in mind. They have creating something pretty in mind that looks good from their perspective, from a design perspective, right? But what we want to do, we want to be able to sell these on Amazon. So long story short, I take the font from CreativeFabrica, fiddle around with it in Canva on the original image until I'm happy with the result. Okay, so next section, we have my favorite YouTube channels. Now, I'm not quite sure what the etiquette is when it comes to giving people shout outs or not giving people shout outs in this case, because there are tons of really good channels, tons of really bad ones as well, obviously, but these are just the channels that I've been watching basically for a little while now. And I'm going to do this in kind of two different sections. So the first is going to be your kind of the guys that I think, or you know, the guys that have done it all, they've seen it all, they've been publishing for a long time. They know their stuff, they're walking the walk as well as talking the talk. So my favorite two in terms of that category are the Life Graduate, which is Romney Nelson, as you can see here. I really like watching his videos. As you can see, I've watched a fair few of them. Romney tends to, from what I've seen and with the courses that I've taken from him as well, is to publish his books wider. So that means basically taking your existing books and publishing them through places like Ingram Spark. This is something that I've not experimented with or done myself. So, you know, this is one of the main reasons why I follow his channel, is to get information on doing that. So the next been there, done that type of channel that I do watch more of recently has been by Sean Dolwet. So I think this is more so a case of producing higher content books and other ways that you can actually invest your money after you've, you know, actually made some good money through KDP. I tend to watch, as you can see, I watch quite a few. And by the way, if I'm ever watching half of your video or 3/4 or the full length of someone's video, then that is probably the biggest compliment anyone can ever receive, because I have the attention span of a fish. So the next type of YouTuber that I tend to follow are ones that are new and just kind of documenting their journey, where you can obviously tell they have no other incentive when it comes to producing videos other than just sort of giving people a glimpse into how they're performing with KDP. So one of my favorites that I've just recently stumbled upon is Books with Mariel. So not many videos here, as you can see, doesn't upload too often, but extremely transparent, doesn't have many books, and is starting to see really good sales, and it's basically just documenting her journey. So if you're interested, I think it's really nice to see especially for people that are starting out or people that have lost motivation. It's really good to see channels that are new, that don't have any other incentive other than to just talk about what's happening with their KDP business and how things have been going for them. So very motivating. As you can see, I do tend to watch. I've watched most of her videos and they're all pretty good. And the other type of channel that I like to watch are ones that I just truly believe are being 100% honest and talk about what they believe in. So one that I recently started watching was one by Royalty Wizard. I think even shows off some of his books, which is pretty awesome to see. And one of the other ones that I found recently, he doesn't tend to get really hardly any views, which maybe isn't, you know, the fairest of results for this guy, but this is Self-Publishing Made Easy Now. And I do think, you know, despite not getting many views on his channel, I do believe that this is another publisher that has been there and done it all and actually knows what they're talking about. And he's got a channel trailer as well, which I'm sure is pretty interesting. So again, like I say, there are tons of good channels, and just because I don't mention them, it doesn't mean that I don't think they're good. These are just the ones I've been watching since, you know, like December and January and some of February now. I'm going to leave a link in the description to all these guys below if you're interested in following any of them. Okay, so now the list of YouTube channels that you must avoid. I'm just joking, kind of, but seriously, like, we're in the make money online domain, and when you're looking for advice in that domain, you are going to find channels that don't necessarily represent the opportunity in a fair way. So this does kind of spill over a little bit sometimes to the KDP channels, but typically what you'll find is that like side hustle channels really are just lost in this whole make $100, make $1,000 a day, make 20,000 from doing 5 minutes of work every, you know, whatever. Like, it's just crazy, some of these channels are, and these are the ones that I would typically avoid. I'm not saying the ones on screen because I don't watch them, I don't know them the slightest, but obviously online you need to be very careful who you take advice from, and when something seems too good to be true, it usually is. So by the time that you're watching this, I've probably covered up the channels on the screen because that's not what I'm about. I'm just using the make money side hustles as an example here, because you'll find that anything that makes you momentarily feel extremely motivated, you know, with these really ridiculous claims of making so much money per day, per month, per minute, the people making these don't have your best interest at heart. Now, we obviously, as someone that produces YouTube videos myself, it would be stupid to say this is a completely selfless act, because it obviously isn't. But I'm just saying there are people that don't care the slightest what direction you take, provided that it, you know, works out nicely for them. So with that in mind, with there being an incredible amount of free content to learn from on YouTube, it is very hard to get a structured approach to anything, especially publishing. So if you are new and you come across a channel and you have no idea what they're talking about, you just clicked on their latest video, you don't know what you know, keywords are, you don't know what ad campaigns are, you don't know what the point of them are, you don't know how to make the title for your book, and it's kind of all over the place. So I do think that it does make sense, if you want a step-by-step guide from a credible source, that you do buy a course. So I have taken loads of courses myself before. I believe that there is always room to learn more. In fact, I recently put $1,000 into a mentorship just to learn how to do FBA better, and I couldn't be happier with it. So by the time that I would have learned all those things myself from free resources online, you know, I could have got wrong information, I could have got bad information, I could have got too many different sources, resources to learn from, and it could have been just a complete disaster. And that's why I'm personally happy to pay for good information. So in terms of paid courses, because I have had a lot of messages regarding which course is the best out there, in fact I sent out an email which a lot of people, I think maybe 70 people, were interested in knowing which course I'd recommend. And the one that I would recommend is Self-Publishing Titans Masterclass. So I've recently taken this, I've had ownership, I bought this a long time ago, but I've recently, just the last sort of couple of weeks, actually completed it. And I'd go as far as to say, even me as someone who has been publishing for a long time and does see sales, you know, decent sales through KDP, I have picked up a few things here that I would be implementing into my publishing business. Now, that doesn't mean that I necessarily mean that I just agree with absolutely every single piece of information in anyone's course or anyone's YouTube video, but I do think it is definitely worthwhile checking out, because you'll find what works for me might not work for you, and what you find inside someone else's course or from someone else's videos is better suited for you. So the Self-Publishing Titans Masterclass, it is more so geared toward people that are interested in producing more low content books, but still keeping at that higher quality. So, the more books that you produce, obviously the higher chances you are going to be of having success, whilst, obviously not spamming Amazon. So I think this is something that is going to be pleasing and helpful for a lot of publishers who are interested in low and no content books. So inside of the masterclass, you get 80 videos, 100 plus resources, a private Facebook group, 2 research tools included. And at the time of recording this video, the course has gone to, I think it's half price now, down to $97 until Valentine's Day. So depending on when you're watching this video, it might be on offer, it might not be, but at the moment during recording it's $97, down from $197. So just to quickly run through what you can expect to find in this course, obviously it's in a very structured order and it is geared toward people that want to kind of learn everything basically. So you have your overview, you got your invitation to the Facebook group, you got the new tools that they offer, you got the getting familiar and getting started and the expectations, mindsets, your game plan. So this was one of my favorite sections, was the game plan for reaching your first $1,000 per month. There's lots of like checklists and PDF files that come with this as well. There's lots of different sections on different types of books, so there's tons of niches. If you need that sort of direction going forward and you aren't doing all your niche research yourself, which again is what I do, then maybe this might be a better starting point for you and give you some better ideas if you need that little push going forward. So we have a couple of sections here, 9 and 10, which are dedicated to the tools that these guys create and use themselves. Now this is where taking someone else's approach might work for you better than what I do, because as I've already mentioned many times, I don't rely on any kind of tool to tell me what a good niche is or anything like that. However, a lot of people do have a lot of success by using these type of tools, and if you are someone that needs more direction, then this approach might be something for you. So moving on, we got how to find the niches, how to create the title to get the book ranked, how to create a cover that sells, your back-end keywords, your trademark checking, hiring people, writing good descriptions, finding the best categories, pricing your book correctly, getting reviews for your book, the basics on launching, uploading your first book, A+ content, etc, ads, all sorts, and their launch strategy and additional stuff. There's loads inside this course. It took me a fair while to go through it. It was totally worth it, and I think if I'm going to recommend someone else's course, a complete course, then this would be the one that I would recommend. And if you're interested in picking that up, you can get it from the description below. I'm going to have a link there for you. And again, at the time of recording this, it is on offer for $97, down from $197. Okay, so the next course that I've taken and recommend is by Romney Nelson, who again is the life graduate whose channel we checked out earlier. So this is his Udemy course on how to self-publish books through Ingram Spark. So that's something that I've been meaning to do for a long time. It's something I'm going to be doing in the next sort of couple months, and I figured I'd take this course, and it's been fantastic. And again, it's a case of all this information you can work out yourself. You can get this information online from somewhere, but again, I'm happy to pay to have it all sort of compiled into one course from a credible source. So I paid, I think it was like, I'm sorry if Romney's watching this, but I paid, I think it was $15 or $16, because Udemy courses go on sale all the time. So, maybe you might want to wait if you see the price is a little bit higher on anyone's Udemy course. And also do yourself a massive favor, don't buy any of these courses just because I recommended them. If you're interested in them, make sure you go and check them out individually. I'll leave links in the description for pretty much everything included in this video. Go and check it out and see if it matches your desires and goals first, instead of just blindly jumping in and buying something. Okay, so moving on to my outsourcing section. So as you know, if you watch my channel, my approach is that I delegate a lot of work. So that means I need to hire people from freelance websites. So the one that I go to primarily for certain types of book cover is Fiverr.com. So the book cover that I had made for my addition and subtraction workbook was from someone on Fiverr.com. But when it comes to hiring someone to do the interiors for, let's say, my coloring books, then I go to Upwork.com. Okay, so this is just the way that I found things work out best for me. I've found it nearly impossible to find someone who does a really good book cover from Upwork, whereas finding people on Fiverr is pretty easy. To find people who are decent when it comes to creating book covers. But again, the book covers that I have designed from Fiverr are quite specific. So things like, the workbooks or activity books, I'm happy to go to Fiverr to find someone to do that. When it comes to my coloring books, I'm much more specific. So what I'll do is I'll use the person that's created the coloring books, the interiors, the person that I've hired from Upwork. I think I mentioned this earlier in the video. I'll use them to color one of the images in, or do the image myself from PIXLR or something like that. I typically just get people to do it now. I pay people to do the coloring for the book covers now, and then add the text on as I showed you earlier. So that's a very specific way that I do things, and what I've found has worked best basically. So just to end this video here with a kind of weird section, but we don't really talk about this type of thing in videos, but that is your working environment. So I'm going to go through the things that I use for my setup that makes me feel good, makes me feel comfortable, makes me feel professional, helps me work longer with, less fatigue and things like that. And, there's no affiliate links to any of this. This is just the stuff that I use. But when it comes to keyboard, I use the Apple Magic keyboard. I don't know which version it is, 1 or 2. But I'm someone that types a lot. I'm talking every day for 2-3 hours or whatever, how long it is. It's a lot of typing, and all the keyboards that I've used in my lifetime, the Apple Magic keyboard has been by far the best in terms of not getting any kind of fatigue when you are typing. So I just love it. I use it a ton. It's wireless, so it doesn't clutter up your setup. And paired with that, I have the Logitech MX Master 2S wireless mouse. That's a mouthful, which is $69 it looks at the moment. These are much more expensive on the UK website from what I can recall. Again, it's wireless, it's pretty comfortable, and it's got this infinite scroll thing, which really helps when you're doing your niche research or scrolling through Canva or whatever. It's it's a pretty comfortable mouse. From there, in terms of working on the go, I have an unnecessarily expensive laptop that is not well reviewed at all, but looks really nice. It is a Razer Book 13. I spent way too much money on this, but it's damn good. It feels good. I feel really motivated when I take it out of the house to do some work. And this is one of those things where I've wanted this for the last 2 years, and I finally sort of had enough spare money to go ahead and get it. So that's the laptop that I use basically. And I don't have any recommendation for chairs or desks or anything like that, because mine are all about 400 years old. So something else that I could recommend that might help your productivity is using Opera GX as your browser. So you can pretty much install most of your Chrome extensions onto this, but I just like using this because you can personalize it, and it makes a nice little clicky sound when you start typing as well, and it's pretty quick. So that's the browser that I use. And last and probably least, when I'm working, I like to have lo-fi music on my unbelievably and unnecessarily expensive headphones, which I'm not going to be talking about. But when I'm working, I tend to have lo-fi music on at a really, really low volume. It helps me concentrate, and it just feels good. Okay, so that is it for this video. That is my ultimate KDP resources guide. Again, you need to look at these things. They're all in the description below, and look at them in a way where it makes sense to you, what you think is going to enhance your publishing business. Don't buy anything just because I've recommended it. Do your research, see if it suits you, and then go from there. But that's it for the video. I'll see you next Wednesday.